acquisition is good, but it's not making the product better. I reached out to Brian Rose. Now he went a bit shady, but he had a good podcast, 2 million subscribers.
That is a lot.
Yeah, it was intense. I had to stop it. I had to stop it very quick because
too many sales?
I had too many sales, yeah. Too many clients at the same time.
Good problem to have.
At this time, I made like 12K in a week.
And then sometimes hiring the right people, and the right people pay off in multiples. By the way, you're going to hear sirens.
Yeah, there's just a nuclear weapon that's going to land right now.
In Syria right now.
Try to see where the next 5 steps will lead you and ask yourself, when I see 30% of conversion rate, what I personally see is 70% of fail rate. I give the most of my efforts and energy to people who have at least given me $1.
Mi mate es tu mate. Episodio 2.
So for someone who's really struggling and wants to make money a little quickly or just does not want to do sales calls, I believe you found something. I want you to tell me more about how you can sell without having sales calls.
Of course. So the interesting thing is that the last endeavor I started, which is the short form content agency, just like you, the first clients that I got and that paid me the most in terms of lifetime value, for example, like the first client that I had, which I started with a 750 retainer, 750 a month, but overall, like then I upgraded the package I was offering him, and overall he got me 30K, just this client.
How long?
Over less than a year, I would say.
Okay.
Something like that. Or maybe just a year. And this client and a few others, which I got really at the start of my agency, where I got them without sales calls. And that's the moment I got started without asking myself too many questions on how you need to sell. I just followed my instinct, right? And the way I did it was through content. So only then, when I wanted to scale, that's when I started following the advice of, guys on YouTube, when I started to hire, let's say, consulting businesses or education companies so that they could install their infrastructure in my agency. And that's when I fell into what I call the trap of, the closers, the setters. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Of course it works. But this wasn't my model. And so that's, at this moment, it was the start of the decline of the model that I had at the time. So you don't need to do sales calls to get clients, because I started without it. What you need to understand is why people buy. What is the mechanism that makes people buy? And obviously the most obvious thing is that they need to trust you. Because if someone trusts you, or let's say you have a friend and this friend refers you to someone else, there's already some kind of trust. So this guy might not need a call in order to work with you. And this trust, you can create it through friendship, relationships, or through killing objections, but you don't need to do a call for that. You can actually just use content in more practical terms. What I used at the time when I was getting started is just emails and looms. I would just send the looms. I would add the link to book a call with me, even though I didn't want them to book a call at the time. But it just worked like that. Just by killing the right objections and giving away the right information, the right proof, the right examples of the results I've generated and that I could generate. That was enough. And that's how I could sell without sales calls, and I got clients which had a very good lifetime value.
Do you think there's a ticket size to which this applies?
So
beyond a certain ticket size, it's like you need to have a call.
That's a good question. I don't think there's a limit. However, in order to sell without sales calls, and if you want to sell high ticket, I believe you need to go through layers or through steps. You cannot start high ticket from the get-go. It's very hard to try to sell high ticket without sales calls, without, building that trust, because part of building that trust in order to sell high ticket comes from selling lower ticket, because it's easier to sell a small thing and to then sell a higher thing. Because when people, it's actually, I need to find a study on this, but it's way easier to sell to customers again than to sell to new prospects. I think you felt it. It's easier to build recurring revenue than to get new clients every time. That's why you build a good product so that it increases retention, so you don't need to find new clients every time, because otherwise you're spending most of your time in acquisition. Acquisition is good, but it's not making the product better, right?
100%.
And that's the thing. So it's something I've tested as well, is that if you sell something small first and people give you money and see that they can trust you, they don't even need to consume the product. That's the funny thing I observed, is that they just need to see that you know what you're talking about. And then the higher ticket thing could be the same product with, let's say, more access to you, so that they just get the outcome of the small product that they bought faster, better, easier. That's an example. So you need to go through those steps. You cannot skip those steps, because these are the steps that build the trust, which you basically build through sales calls. That's why people do sales calls. They need to build the trust. They just do it faster. Obviously, if you want to make money faster and sell faster, sales calls might be an option. But don't forget that, a good conversion rate in the industry of, online businesses might be around 30%.
Yeah.
It's around 30%. But when I see 30% of conversion rate, what I personally see is 70% of fail rate. And this is the thing that triggers me, because I'm very big on not wasting time, the time chamber, all that stuff. And of course, you might think, this is part of the process. This is how you learn and you get better. That's for sure. But I like to build systems and operations that only rely on time that is used wisely. And I would rather spend that 70% of wasted time into making the product better. Because this is the frustration that I get, is like, why am I not spending more time for my clients, for my product, my service? Why am I allowing 70%, even if it's not my time and I have a closer, why am I allowing this? Now, I know it might be a bit controversial, because a lot of people use sales calls, and I've used them as well. But this is just my belief, and this is how I'm evolving my business around.
My problem here is the human aspect of it, right? Example being, if a prospect buys into you, they're just buying into your product, they're just buying into whatever you're offering.
You mean without sales calls?
Yeah, without sales calls, right? They're buying into that, they're buying into the results they've seen that you've accomplished for others. But as soon as, if things don't work out in the department of results, then they're 100% going to churn. Whereas if you had that sales call with them, you had a kickoff call with them, and you were more involved, like as a human, they might even stay for the relationship, because they might trust you more. No, I know that, even though I'm not getting results right now, I believe in this person, and I know that, you just got to give it more time.
I see what you mean, and calls are a great tool to do that, but I believe you can build those relationships through content. Now, not only with Looms, of course, which is why I don't use them anymore. The best tool to do that, obviously, is to have something that everyone keeps talking about right now, but the personal brand. Because it's something that you can build over and over again with the same marginal effort. It builds into a bigger asset. And as long as people consume what you share, they build this relationship without you spending any time. Now, of course, it's less powerful than an actual call, but it doesn't mean, when I say sales calls, it's calls that you have with prospects.
Yeah.
prospects. But the calls I do, because I do calls,
Yeah.
but I do them with my clients.
Okay.
So as soon as people pay, that's when I can engage in calls, because I want to make sure I give the most of my efforts and energy to people who have at least given me $1.
Yeah.
And so this is why I can introduce calls, because people are already in the group of people I want to serve. Because a prospect, you don't really know what's in their mind. You know, some people just will get in a call with you with no intention to buy. They just want to see your process, or they just want to get some insights from you. And yeah, they might waste your time. So this is why I go super hardcore into spending time with the clients. But of course, if you do sales calls, then you build that relationship better, and people might be more patient towards results.
I'm hearing a lot of saving time and a lot of prospects that might not be the best fit. So wouldn't this be a prospecting issue more than a sales call issue in terms of getting the right type of quality of leads and the people that are your ICP, and then only having them book calls?
For sure, that increases your chances of having the right conversations with the right people. But this prospecting issue can be solved if you put more time in the prospecting. You know, just remember in the sniping days, I don't know, like
Yeah,
I talked about
we're
that,
always in
yeah.
sniping days.
Sniping days, that's obviously the best way to do lead generation, because it's the unscalable. You don't get access to a platform like Apollo or all these platforms where the leads get sourced, which is better, because if they are on these platforms, they get spammed by all the other
100%.
clients. And so the best way is to snipe them, as we call it.
Break down the sniper approach. I don't
The
think
sniper
people know
approach,
what it
yeah.
means.
Let me break down the sniper lead gen approach. So basically, the way I'm gonna give an example of how we used it. So for you, it was mostly on the podcast platforms. For me, it was mostly on YouTube. But it's basically, you will search through. Let's take YouTube as an example. What I recommend my clients to do, and what I did when I got started, is to search through, first of all, my subscriptions, or what I watch, because what I watch, I have knowledge about it, and that knowledge is my unfair advantage, which I can use to reach out to those people. And so in practical terms, like go on their profile, about page, the YouTube about page, or now it's just in the kind of bio, click on it, and then you get the email.
I would still be careful with this because of the fact that some people might have an audience or might have content that's recommended to them and might be consuming content from a niche where people don't have money to spend.
Oh yeah.
Example,
Gotta be careful about
gaming,
that, yeah.
and all of these. There's a lot of stupid niches. So if you're
Yeah.
consuming that,
Depends on what you watch. If you mostly watch business stuff, then this might be better. If you watch gaming stuff, not as much. So depending on the niche. Now let's remove that so it stays consistent for everybody's watching this. Just gotta search keywords that are referencing niches which have money and who would need the services you have to offer. And basically what you want to do is just go through those channels manually, find just estimate how is their business rolling, and it's easy to estimate. You can just have a look at their links in the description, in the bio, in their other social media, because most of the time people who have a YouTube channel, they link their other social platforms on YouTube, which is YouTube really serves as a hub in which you can find other platforms. And you want to get their email, but that's not enough. So what you can get as a real sniper is get their other ways to contact them. For example, Instagram DMs, and even X, all the other platforms that you can find. One day I reached out to Brian Rose. Now he went a bit shady, but he had a good podcast, 2 million subscribers. I reached out to him through LinkedIn email. And that was from YouTube. So that's just an example. And he became a client, by the way. So what you want to do is find those people through YouTube, get their contact details, and then send them an email. And what we used to do in the sniping days, which we can still do today, is we used the last video title as the subject of the email. And basically the formula, which has been used over and over again, which is quick question about video title. And then you can also use like AI to make sure the title is formatted.
Or actually formatted incorrectly.
Yeah, because if it's just a copy paste, might seem too robotic, so you want to format it again. But that's just, these are just bonuses here.
Yeah.
And so that's what we used to do. So it's highly unscalable. Well, I scaled it with a team of 5 VAs, I remember, where I got like 1.5 thousand leads a week. And that worked very well.
That is a lot.
Yeah, it was intense. I had to stop it. Like, I had to stop it very quick because
too many sales?
I had too many sales, yeah. Too many clients at the same time.
Good problem to have.
At this time, I made like 12K in a week.
Nice.
Immediately. And so this is the way to do it. And then on the backend part, so now we have the contact details, we have the video title, which is customization. Then you need to send the sequence with which we used instantly.ai. And the goal of this sequence was to show that we had prepared something for the client. So a short overview of how they could improve their brand, or a sample, which we would then make very fast. And the way to do that was to send a loom so that we can show our face, the way we talk, and start building that relationship with content, right? This was the trick. And then they would book a call, or not even book a call, and go straight to, talking, conversation through emails, and then become clients. So that is the sniping method, just to break it down. Now, why did I mention with the sniping? Yeah, if you put more time into sniping the right leads, which again is more time in acquisition, then you can have the right conversations with the right people. But that's the thing. That's what I wanted to...
That's time invested into prospecting, which is the thing you want to avoid in the first place.
Exactly.
You want to be focused on product. So it makes sense now. And that's a really good answer, in my opinion.
Exactly. So yeah,
that's... You put it back into prospecting, you're still putting more time in before the sale.
That's the thing. So the way I like to prospect is to use things that are highly leveraged, like content.
Actually, talking about leverage, I know that you mentioned that your previous short form agency was not it, right? Like there's a reason you've completely changed up and are doing operating
partnerships
in the fitness niche. So what happened before? By the way, you're going to hear sirens.
Yeah, there's just a nuclear weapon that's going to land right now.
In Syria right now.
So if we die...
We're in the middle of a war zone. Regardless, tell me about the agency that you felt like wasn't leveraged enough, and that why you think now you're at a better position.
So basically, the previous agency, so short form content agency, was relying a lot on human labor, whether it was on the prospecting side of things or in the product. And that's basically that was the main bottleneck, is that before, when we started, there wasn't as much AI tools which would make reels better, but even that doesn't matter, because that became the common denominator of all the people, so they could use those tools. So now, in order to make the good short form content, you still need an editor, right? So you always need to be different to stand out from the crowd. And so that goes back to the same problem, which is we needed more humans, and for each human you hire, there's a certain amount of problems.
Yeah.
And management problems, and making sure that they keep the quality standards high, which relies on your SOP, of course, but also on the daily management of those teams. And the reason this was working well, actually. The moment it started to crumble was when I wanted to scale, and that I followed this journey, like this path of the closer setter model.
Yeah.
So getting just more humans, even more than before, and more in the acquisition part. And when I started doing this, so I hired another, let's say, an agency to do that. They're quite known in the space. So they basically build infrastructure for agencies to scale. And I hired them to do that, paid some a good ticket price for that. And the problem is that as I was building this new model with the closers, the setters, and like the setters doing Instagram outreach and all the systems to do that, I started to become like disgusted by my business model. I didn't like, I was hiding it for myself because I didn't want to admit it. But I was starting to actually hate the model and hate the work that was required. And so that made me want to avoid the work, and I was delegating myself out of the business, but not in a good way. Not like an owner who wants to build a strong foundation so that maybe he can exit the business later on. I was really trying to avoid the work, like by delegation. And because I wasn't really interested in the process, I was just following the rules. I was really like a student. I was like, all right, they know what they're doing, so I'm just gonna follow step by step. And actually, this agency is not their fault. Like this other company which I hired, it's not their fault. It's just they were building something in which I didn't believe in because it worked with for some other people. So they weren't the problem, right? Even though their success rate maybe wasn't super high because it was actually hard to do it, but still I learned a lot with them. It's just that the lesson here, the insight is that you need to use forecasting. You know, you need to try to see where the next 5 steps will lead you and ask yourself, are you interested by this next situation, that by this future? And if not, well, there's a high chance this model is not for you, or maybe there's other reasons, but you need to make sure you're interested in that, into that future, because this will fuel your current grind, your current efforts.
Can we pinpoint why you felt disgusted?
I think it was because of the model in which I spent most of my time doing the things that I didn't think were useful for my clients.
What things?
Like managing a team, which I don't like. The way I hired before, it wasn't very healthy. So I had my business partner, that was fine with him. But then I hired people, and like honestly, it's like I didn't want to really have a team. So I didn't really talk with them. It's like they were just like functions in my business. They weren't like a real team. This is something I changed now. Like the people I hire, I need to really be aligned with them. They need to be aligned with the vision. It's actually what I used to do in other ventures, but somehow in this venture, in the short form content agency, or what it evolved into.
Just had to serve a purpose.
Yeah, I didn't really care, and I wanted to avoid the calls, you know, the team calls, which are super important. Like you need to be aligned with your team. You need to meet them on a daily or a weekly, depending on the structure. And I didn't want that. So it was like counterintuitive. I was hiring people, but I just wanted them to do their job like robots and nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. I wasn't building a culture. And that's what caused my demise here, because yeah, it was misaligned with what I truly wanted.
Got it. I think one of the best things an agency or any service-based business can get you is the people.
Yeah.
Because you have the cash flow to go and then hire people and be really meticulous about who you're working with and why. And then these people, if you develop them correctly and if you build the culture, honestly, from Atomic, it's like the people who I'm working with right now, I would take them into any other venture with me.
Yeah.
And it is amazing to find people after so much screening and then burning a lot of cash on then hiring the wrong people, learning from that, letting them go, and then sometimes hiring the right people, and the right people pay off in multiples.
Exactly. Yeah.
So whatever even comes after the agency, because the agency can never be an end goal, I know the people I want to do it with.
Yeah,
You know?
you have the team, then you can just change the vehicle with which you achieve your goals.
Yeah, but even then it's hard because then the agency cannot just stop, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you have to do it smartly. But I know the people I would choose, right? Which is a huge. That's why people who work jobs first, they build these alumni networks that are really beneficial for their business if they started, because then they can poach from their previous company they were working at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a great network to invest in. It's actually something you get to keep for a long time.
Yeah. But with AI coming, it's interesting how teams are going to change.
Yeah.
Have you seen any applications of this in content operation yet?
Of course. So first of all, with AI, it helped us into going from a team of 15 to a team of like now 4-ish, because sometimes we hire on a spontaneous basis. So that really helped. So yeah, it's very interesting where it is going, because now what is more aligned with what I want to do and what I share through content operators is to build leveraged operations which rely on tools such as AI, because this is what allows you to hire like a team, what I like to say, a team of special forces, which all are leveraged, which can do the work of 10 people each.
Yeah.
And I think that's the direction where we're going. And that's what I want to optimize for, making sure we have the right operations which enhance you and your team, either as a single operator business, or just you and your business partner, or maybe 3 of you. You don't need to be as much as before with this model here.
Can you talk about one workflow that you think has really made a difference to content operation? Like one specific integration or workflow,
Yeah.
and something that perhaps our audience could implement today?
So the thing that makes a big difference, which I used partially when I was getting started, was all the matter of converting the prospects through my looms, my content, but I wasn't using it in a leverage way, because I was doing, like, every time I was doing new looms, new content which was the same. I was just running through the same script, doing it over and over again. This was time spent for my experience, of course, but it could be spent better if I invested it in a personal brand, in my personal brand. And that's the thing that changes everything. It's to use that time as content operator, instead of just spending your time as an anonymous service provider, adding this layer of content that invests into an asset, not just looms that you send privately to people. That's a big difference, because it makes everything easier. All right, guys, battery died. So see you in the next one. Peace.